So I shot a video on yesterday talking about there's a process to forgiving, okay? And in that video, I talked about you need three things in order to get on the path to forgiveness. Number one is get understanding. Number two is compassion. And number three is get some boundaries, okay? So today I want to talk about understanding. This is the very first step into the path to forgiveness. The problem is no one wants to do it. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want to do it. But because it is really, really difficult to do because no one wants to understand why someone did what they did, right? No one wants to understand why someone raped or molested or whatever. I'm just essay. Why did someone essay me? Like, why we don't want to understand that. We don't feel like I don't have to understand. And let me tell you something. The reason why you have to understand it is because eventually you have to gain compassion so that you can let go. Again, that hurt needs a place to land, and it cannot land if your heart is hard. It cannot land and move out of your body if your heart is hard. So listen to me very carefully. I want to talk about understanding on a deeper level because it's not understanding why they did it. It's understanding that they did it and probably what led up to what they did. Because ultimately, you wouldn't have made the decision to do what they did. You probably would have made a different decision. But what if they felt like they didn't have a choice? What if they were tormented so much in their soul that they had to do it, or something overtook them, made them mentally unstable to do something? Ain't that 99.9% of people out here now? Like, they are really just out here doing anything and harming people in the process. I liken it to the conversation that I had with my dad before he passed away. And he was talking about him not being there for me. And I was floored. I was really floored at this brief. It was a brief conversation, but it was a conversation because my dad wasn't there for me, and I had unforgiveness for him. And I saw other men that I was romantically dating. I saw them through the eyes of that hurt. So when I was looking at my husband, I was looking at my dad, all because I wouldn't forgive him. And that is what happens. You make decisions from a lens that is full of hurt and pain, full of mud, full of crud. So you have to get an understanding. Now listen very carefully. You do not have to agree with what they did. Again, I didn't agree with my dad and the reason why he wasn't there for me. But I understood that he grew up in a household where it was misogynistic, where it was okay to beat your woman. That's the only way you keep her in line. Right? Like, he grew up in that time, in that household where that was okay in his household, in his life. And so as I'm getting older and he not being there for me, that takes a toll on him because he becomes an alcoholic. And if you're an alcoholic, your mental, your physical, your emotional, everything is impaired. And ultimately it took his life. So I had to really put myself in his shoes, because when I had that last conversation with him before he passed away, he did let me know, baby girl, I didn't even love myself. How could I love anyone? Wow. So after he passed away, I didn't take it personally that he wasn't there for me. It was just, it is what it is. But I'm going to have to tell you, you got to get understanding. You got to put yourself in the shoes of the offender. How did they grow up? How did they impact your life before the offense? You have to look at who are their mother or father or sister or brother. And listen, the reason I'm saying you got to look at that, because 99% of the offense out here is by a family member. 99% of the offense out here is by a close friend. So you got some information on them that will allow you to walk through understanding. I'll be back again to talk about compassion, because once you get an understanding, compassion will come, but you actually have to practice it. So yeah. And when you get an understanding, the road to forgiveness is pretty quick. It's just that no one ever wants to get past that understanding. And I get it. But again, the God in you is not asking for you to agree. It's asking you to get an understanding. Because in your getting your understanding, you will get wisdom. And wisdom is applied knowledge. It's applying the knowledge that you learn to your life. And the reason why you have to forgive all the time, every day, is because you have to practice it. Forgiveness is literally a skill that has to be developed over time. See, this is what people are not telling people out here. As a life coach, I'm going to give you the real. Like, I'm just going to give you the real. They're not telling you that forgiveness is a skill. It is a skill. In the Word of God, it says, Christ said that you had to forgive 7 times, 70 times. Like, and you got to keep forgiving because it's a practice. It's a skill. But the very first thing you got to do before you even begin to forgive is work on some understanding. I hope I was able to bless somebody on today. If anything that I said resonated with you, share it with a friend. Share it with someone you love. And in the comments, I need you to engage with me. Let me know you hear me. And in the comments, type forgiveness. It's time for us to forgive. And here's the thing. I'm going to walk you through it. The next video will be about compassion. And until then, see you next time.